Okay. Oh, that's a new voice. Okay, we'll get started. Hello and welcome to the virtual author visit at Westbury Memorial Public Library. I'm Michelle Marcus, reference librarian and your host today. Just to let you know, I will start by having all the attendees on mute, but when it's question and answer time, please select the raise hand button, and it's below, it's like reactions, I believe. So you just go there and you can select it, or you can put in your question in chat, and then when I just call on you at that time. Um, um, I'm excited to speak to author Elle Evans, and let me share a little more about her. Actually, I will say I thought this biography was funny. I don't know if you wrote it or if someone wrote it for you, but whatever it is, it's funny. So you'll see when I say it. Originally from Massachusetts, Elle now lives in Philadelphia where she works in healthcare. She is recovering from a recent 5-year stint in Nashville for graduate school, punctuated by sweet southern hospitality and even sweeter iced tea. She enjoys caffeine, cocktails, and crumble cookies, though, although not all at once. She lives with her husband, the rescue pup, Calypso, the first of their dozen dogs to be named after mythological creatures. They are currently soliciting suggestions for their next dog's name. Elle Evans is a not-so-secret pen name. In real life, Elle isn't Batwoman, but she does publish academic research papers about anesthesiology and value-based care, to protect readers from accidental boredom or unsolicited healthcare analysis. She writes commercially under a pseudonym. Hello, Elle, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this virtual author visit with the Westbury Memorial Public Library. I'm so excited to discuss your book, Wedding Issues. Can you share a little more about the book, spoiler free? This way we can give the audience members who haven't read the book yet a little introduction to the book.
Sure, yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm super excited to be chatting with you tonight. Wedding Issues is about a fast-talking law student who becomes maid of honor for two different weddings that are competing for a bridal magazine cover. Her cousin's wedding, as well as her best friend's. Throw in a scheming aunt and an off-limits crush, and our protagonist Liv really has her handful trying to balance all of that wedding sabotage.
Okay, that was a good introduction. Okay, so next, I was wondering if you could like explain a little further, like for example, share a little more about the themes of the book.
Sure. So I wrote this book when I was in my mid-20s and living in Nashville, which was a time that a lot of my friends were getting married and getting engaged. I think I was a bridesmaid myself like 5 or 6 times in 2 years, like a lot. And I also got engaged and married in that time. So wedding planning was just a huge part of my life. And I was experiencing for myself how many emotions weddings stir up and how what a special time it is, not only for the romantic love between the people getting married, but also the friendship love and the self-love that comes like as in that big journey, that big transition. And so I wanted to write a book with sort of weddings as the backdrop, but that was really more about friendship, love, and self-love as opposed to, that romance. And I was really sort of falling in love with Nashville at that same time. And so I wanted to not only set it in Nashville, but also try and really give it a very strong sense of setting and really have that Southern theme throughout the book. So those were sort of, I think, some of the inspirations for where the idea came from.
Yeah, so that was actually my next question. So that was kind of inspirational, you living in Nashville during that time, and
Yeah,
was
and
that inspiration?
I joke that I joke, but it's true. I'm very lazy when it comes to writing. I like to write about things I already know about. I don't like to have to do a lot of research. I take my hat off to all the historical fiction and science fiction authors who, read lots and lots of research books. But for me, I'm like, I know Nashville really well. I love it. I know way too much about wedding planning right now and this whole process. So like, let me find a way to blend these things together.
Oh, that's wonderful. So we have, as you mentioned, well, main character Liv, who's the law student, and Leighton, the best friend, and Callie, the cousin, as two prominent supporting characters. I noticed, and this is not really a spoiler because it doesn't really spoil anything by saying this, but they all share a desire to please their parents. Can you share a little more how you created these characters and what direction you wanted to take with them?
Sure. Liv, Olivia, or Liv, the main character, was very, very fun to write because she's this very headstrong, persuasive, charismatic person that is like, maybe somewhat related to me after like two tequila shots. Like that's just not me at baseline, but maybe the most confident version of me. And there's a lot of upsides to that sort of, sees life by the horns mentality, but there's a lot of downsides too. And so uh Liv was just really fun to write. And then it was sort of working backward from her who had sent her the book and figuring out, okay, what kind of people would she be drawn to, be friends with? Maybe someone like Leighton, who's a little more kind, a little more soft spoken, really, they kind of balance each other out and have this really long standing friendship. And then, what are the ways in which Olivia and her cousin would have grown apart and what could bring them back together? And then I really was trying to be intentional about some of the contrast between Olivia and all the things she's going for, and then when she has that conversation with Hank, a lawyer, she's going into law school and considering big law, and she's seeing sort of the end stage of continuing her current approach on life and kind of having to think twice about whether she wants to be that person in 20 years. And so I think there's a lot of themes when you're in your mid late 20s early 30s of you're really finding yourself as an adult, you're finally accepting that you're an adult and you're not, just an overgrown college student anymore. And you're having to make decisions about the rest of your adult life. And so Olivia really wrestles with a lot of those same things that I was going through when I was writing that book.
Okay, very good. Is anything else? Wait, let's see. No, actually, I will continue to the next question. How did you come up with the character of the evil Aunt Charlotte?
Okay. I go back and forth, I will say, on whether Olivia or Charlotte was the most fun to write because my dad growing up always used to say that in Disney movies like The Lion King, the villains always get the really good songs. Like Scar and Lion King has that like Be Prepared song that everyone knows. They always get the really fun, over the top sort of campiness. And that was Charlotte. That was Charlotte. And she was just so ridiculously fun to write. I needed a really strong antagonist to balance out Olivia because she's such a strong personality. She needs someone who can sort of meet her where she's at. And then, of course, you need a reason. By the end of the book, you find out, some more motive. I won't spoil anything, but some more motivation for why her aunt has been so over the top in her sabotage efforts. And I don't know what this says about me, but some of my other books are also about lighthearted, mischievous sabotage. And it's just really fun to write. And so thinking of like these crazy things that Charlotte would do to mess with wedding events was probably the most fun I had brainstorming. And people always ask me if I have any evil aunts, and I do not. I love my aunts. No true life there.
uh, Without spoilers, did you know who you wanted Liv to end up with at the end of the book?
I absolutely did. But when I was editing the book with my editor, my publisher, she pushed very, not a spoiler to say, there's a bit of a love triangle in the book. Um, And I knew who I wanted her to end up with. My editor felt very strongly the other way, but I held fast. I knew, and I never wanted to change it. But I will say, read my reviews online, which if there are any authors, I do not recommend this. If you have better mental health than I do, then you will be strong and not do it. But a lot of people write that they kind of wish that Olivia had ended up with the other person. So that was very interesting where I was like, wow, my editor really was sort of on the ball with what people would think. But for me personally, I start out my books with strong characters, a sense of the overarching plot, but a really strong idea of what the conclusion of the book is going to be. And most of the creating along the way is how do we get from A to Z? I know A and I know Z.
So kind of related to that, did you like know the ending before you started it, or did it come to you as you were writing the book?
I would say I had a good grasp on the ending. There were some additional sort of subplots that I layered in throughout the revising process that were a little more up in the air. A lot of the stuff about Olivia really re-examining whether big law is for her, that was sort of added on in a later draft. So that was something that I was really thinking through as I was revising, and really what would she choose in real life? Um, I don't want to give any spoilers, but sometimes my editor was suggesting things where I was like, "There's just no way that would happen. We have to stay a little closer to home." Olivia's not going to quit law school and become a wedding planner, so just she's too driven. She's done too much. That's just not going to happen. And so I think the big plot, the core plot, I knew what was going to happen at the end, but some of those subplots were more of that discovery process.
Okay, is there anything interesting you could share that didn't make the book?
Um, in one of the drafts, there were a couple of scenes with Leighton's fiance. Um, I don't even remember his name. That's how minor a character he really was. I clearly read it. I think his name is Matt or something very generic. Because we spend a lot of time with one of the brides is marrying a woman, Greta. And so we spend a lot of time with both Callie and Greta and get to know them both as people throughout the book. And we spend no time, obviously, with Leighton's fiance. And I realized he didn't really add to the book. It was really a book about these friendships and the self-growth and really a female focused book. But it was very interesting to be like, oh, I'm just gonna write out one of the spouses entirely. But it I didn't even notice honestly once he was gone.
Okay, and can you please also share how you decided to become a published author, or specifically a novelist?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
If you could share how you decided to become a published author, or specifically a novelist, because you say you do write other types of writing.
Oh, I made that decision when I was a kid, but it was a long time in getting anyone to agree to publish my books. So it took a long time there. I writing is not my day job. My day job is as a resident anesthesiologist, what I spend most of my time doing. But I've always loved to write, even as a kid. About 4 years ago, I would say, I started taking writing seriously in medical school, started, really trying to hone my manuscripts, get beta readers, read books on craft, really all that kind of stuff. And started trying to find an agent and sort of seek the publication process. So when I was younger, and I used to write for fun in middle school and high school, and I used to write plays in college, but publishing fiction was always my dream. And it was only a couple of years ago that I really was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. And it was for me, there are a lot of novelists who, not a lot, but you hear about novelists who write a manuscript and get an agent the next day, and then they sell for $500,000 and they, 10 book deal or whatever, which is great. I love that Cinderella story for them, but it was not my experience. I wish it had been. But for me, it was a long slog through a lot of rejections and a lot of working on my books. I think it took me over 50 attempts essentially to get an agent, to get someone to agree to represent me professionally. And then after that, Wedding Issues was actually the third manuscript that I had written, polished, honed to the best of my ability, and sent out to publishers. So it was the third book, and it was just so many no's until we got that one really magical yes. And someone asked me, what I thought the difference was between Wedding Issues and those previous books. And I mean, the honest answer is talent. I got better with every book that I was writing, but it was hard to not give up. 'Cause it's really sad as a creative person when you put your work out there and people don't like it. It's it's hard. You try to take it personally, but it does sting, at least for me. But I had to keep going and believing that when I did get that one yes, it would be worth all of those many no's. And on this side, it's really easy to say that it was.
Very good. Let's see. So, you're saying like you always want to be like a writer. So related to that, like a lot of times when we talk to authors that say they want to be a writer when they're younger, they have like a great love for reading. So I was just wondering what your relationship was to reading as a kid.
Oh, absolutely. I think I heard a quote once that I can't attribute because I forget who said it, but it was something like all great readers, all great writers were first readers, which for me was absolutely the case. I read a ton as a kid. I would, as a child on Christmas, most of what I asked for and got were books. And then I would go in the corner and ignore my family the rest of the day and just read my new books. They would be like, "That's not what the holiday's about. And spend time with us." And I'd be like, "But my new books." Yeah, I was always a huge reader. When I was want to say when I was in high school, I discovered Robin Cook, who does not write what I write. He writes medical thrillers, but he was the first person I had seen really straddle writing and medicine and show that you can have a long and productive career in both. Because in pursuing medicine, I really had to give up the chance for any formal writing training, which I really wish that I had. I was a science major in college. I had to take a lot of pre-med classes and things like that. And I had to spend a lot of time studying to be able to get into medical school and to be a good doctor. So sometimes I definitely think about that and I wonder what my life would look like if I just chose writing 100%. But I'm happy with the balance that I have now.
Uh, Two questions that are kind of connected. So how did you end up then going into the medical field? Well, I don't want to see the other part after that's kind of it, but yeah.
So I was a big reader, but I also liked science growing up. And so I went into college and there are so many careers in science, but I don't think I knew very many of them at that time. But you've heard everyone knows doctors. So I was like, oh, I'll be pre-med until I figure it out. And then I did an EMT course and started doing like physical patient care. And that's when I realized I really did like the physical aspect of patient care, connecting with people, taking care of them. I did really like that. And that's so that I decided to pursue medicine at that point and figured that I didn't need an English degree to become a doctor, but I did need a medical degree to become a doctor. And so that was the path that I had to follow, at least in my formal schooling.
And now that you've published a book, are you going to try to do like both careers, or
Yeah,
what
well,
are you thinking?
I joke, and I'm joking, but also not at the hospital, that the second I sell a book to Netflix, they're never going to see me again. I'm never coming back to the hospital. I'm retiring. I'm writing full time, just counting down the days till it happens and manifesting it. Um, no, right now I'm in residency, which is you graduate medical school, you get your MD, and then you have a period of essentially like an apprenticeship. So you work as a doctor, but under the supervision of more experienced doctors. And that's like pretty intense time. We work a lot, like a lot. And so I always say nowadays, I really like my job. I really like what I do. I just wish I did like two-thirds of it per week. The hours are just killing me right now. And so after I finish residency and I have a little bit more work-life balance, I'd love to be able to spend more time writing. Right now, honestly, I do write in the OR sometimes. I write when I'm on call. I sneak it in whenever I can.
Okay, and can you share a little bit more about the publication process was for you, including how like City Books came to publish your book?
Yeah, so as I meant, so big picture, when you have a manuscript for fiction, you have to get an agent usually, to at least publish traditionally as opposed to self-publishing. So, as I already mentioned, that for me was a process. It took like 8 months, like 50 plus queries out to agents until I found the one that, really connected with my work and believed in it, which is important. Your agent really has to believe in your writing. Uh, and then it was the third manuscript that I had written and polished that we send out on submission to editors at different publishers. And Zibby got back to us pretty quickly and really liked it and offered a preempt, which is a larger, more attractive offer to get you to sign with them more quickly. So we signed with them, and then it was about a year and a half from then to publication, which felt like a really long time at the time, but honestly went by really fast. And during that time, we worked first on big picture developmental edits. So, for example, we changed one of the Olivia's friend characters from a woman into a man. Aditya used to be Ramya, a girl, and added that whole love triangle. So, like big picture edits that go through the whole book. When you finish that, you do line edits, so like grammar type stuff. And at the very end, you do like copy editing, fact checking, which was a very interesting experience for me. I got fact checked on there was a line in the book about like there's a lot of humidity somewhere and Olivia was talking about how it would have been like really distressing to Dolly Parton's hairstylist. And my fact checker fact checked me on the fact that Dolly Parton wears wigs. So I should have said wig stylist. And I was like, wow, I never thought that I was going to get fact check on this, but that's what they're there for. So that part is now accurate. And then kind of along that, we were going through like marketing ideas, which is really fun. Got to do a lot of bridal stuff and then the cover, and then the title also. went through several iterations. So kind of doing all those things in parallel.
Okay, very good. Can our audience might love to hear book recommendations. Can you share some books that you read recently that you can recommend?
Yes, but I'll caveat these are very different than wedding issues. Um, Honestly, since I've started writing seriously, it's hard for me to read in my genre without reading it as a writer and analyzing it, and it kind of takes away from the enjoyment for me as a pure reader. So I actually tend to read and gravitate towards science fiction because I don't write it at all. But I just finished the Expanse series by James Corey, which is like actually no, on the ninth book. I haven't finished it, so no spoilers. But it's this like 9 book space opera, incredibly well thought out, of all like essentially the societal implications of what it would look like if we colonized the asteroid belt, Mars, etc. And then similarly, I just finished the 3 Body series, which has a Netflix show, which is how I found it. But the second and third book in that series are just so interesting with the explorations of how humankind really would evolve as a society if we colonize space. So if you like science fiction, those are 2 awesome series.
Very good. Um, are you able to share what you're writing next and what's going on at this
Yeah.
time?
So I'm writing actually 2 different books, both of them a little closer to home, a little more medical. The first one is very similar to Wedding Issues. Like I said, I guess light sabotage is hopefully going to be my brand as an author, but it's about a chief surgery resident, so a final year surgery resident, who is battling a really evil patriarchal counterpoint for a prestigious fellowship. There's a lot of like in OR, in hospital sabotage, sort of like Grey's Anatomy in book form. So that's one, and then I'm also starting to write some suspense and like thriller type books. So I'm working on another one that's essentially, if you know Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. It's similar to that. 7 doctors get invited to this remote desert resort. They think it's for a medical conference. When they get there, they're cut off from society, realize they all shared a past patient in common, one who means them, a lot of harm. Kind of a play on like do no harm. And things unfold. None of them are very good out in the desert. So yeah, so those are kind of what I'm working on now.
That sounds really, really good. At this point, I'm going to open up if anyone has any questions. Okay, Marilyn? Yes.
So are you going to use your pen name with your new book since they're a different genre?
That's a good question. I think if the next one that comes out is the plastic surgery book, it's very similar. Like fans of Elle Evans will like this book. So we'll probably keep the same pen name for that one. But for the thriller, I've told my agent I have no, some people feel very passionately about seeing their name on a book. Clearly I don't care that much because I made up a name to use one. So I told my agent I really don't care. Whatever you think is more strategic for my career. If it makes more sense to write under 2 pen names, one for like light fiction and one for thrillers, I'm fine with that. If you think it's better to keep it all under one roof, like that works too. So hopefully we will sell that book here and then we will figure that out.
I I, I listened to the audio book because I didn't and I really enjoyed it. It's
Yeah, the
did
voice actress was amazing. She did such a good job.
she did very good.
Yeah, they asked me if I wanted to record it. No, no one wants
Really?
my voice for 6 hours. No, no, no. Let's get an expert. Also, I can't do a very
Uh,
good Southern accent, so I'm not.
that's interesting that they ask you. Yeah.
Okay, Maria, you have a question?
Uh, yes, hi. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to read the book, but I'm looking forward. I do a lot of audio, like, and I was hoping to get that. And you're what year residency are you now? Like,
This is my
what state?
third year of 4.
Where?
Where
And
I'm at Penn, the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia.
yeah, my son's in second year residency in Rhode Island, and
Oh,
it is a lot of hours, like you said. It's
yeah,
hard.
yeah. You know, it's not a very chill time in our lives.
2 dogs and a house and a lot of responsibility for. He's probably about your age also, and
Yeah.
young, and So with the thriller book, do you have a date set up for like another year, 25, 26? Like,
I'm still working on the revisions on my end before my agent takes it out. So we haven't sent it to publishers yet. I hope we're gonna go out with it in the spring, or like winter, I guess, like January, February. Hopefully someone buys it. Clearly doesn't always happen, at least for me. And so we'd probably be targeting, depending on how aggressive the publisher wanted to be, either like an end of 2025 or an early 2026.
when a publisher gets you, like, where do they set like a amount of books, or is it like a?
Sometimes. So sometimes you sign a multi-book contract, which I did not with my first one. I would love to in the future. My goal eventually is to find a home at a publisher where I can accommodate essentially like a one book a year schedule because I write very quickly and I write a
That's
lot of
cool.
manuscripts. Um, but it's kind of up to each contract is negotiated independently for how many if it's a one or two book contract, and then even if you have a one book contract, you often have to write it at auction where the publisher has the right of first refusal to your next manuscript.
Okay. And to find you, you're on Instagram and Facebook, or if I wanted to,
Yes. Yeah,
you have a newsletter?
yeah, I'm on Instagram, I think would be the best way. It's LELLE.evans.books.
And that,
Yeah.
okay, because I thought I wanted to make sure when those two books you're writing on, I'll be able to get it.
Yeah. From your lips to God's ears, I'm just manifesting. They both sell really quickly, and I can sell them to Netflix and never go to the hospital again.
Okay. Thank you so much, and
All right.
congratulations on your residency. What, one more year, right? And
One
then
more
you
year.
get to
So
choose.
close. So
Yeah.
close.
Well, good luck.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for both work for both jobs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have a question? If not, I have another question. Oh, Rowan, go ahead. Yes.
I know it's not a spoiler, so we'll talk around it.
Okay.
Um, but there's that part in the book at the, I think it was a shower, and yeah, and yeah, and the sabotage that your aunt chose was extremely terrible. How'd you come up with that?
That's what I said. I don't know what it says about me that this is how my mind works. But when I was, honestly, part of the idea for the book came when I was wedding planning myself and wedding planning for my friends, all this stuff. And uh, there are these giant, intricate events and so many decisions and moving parts. And no matter how organized you are, something happens at every wedding. It's not 100%. And it's fine. Like at my wedding, somehow they started serving this like neon orange tofu that was not on the menu, and I saw it go by. And I was, what is that? It's fine, but my mom, who's like the most type A person on the planet, was like so on top of it. I thought I was on top of it. My wedding, it was yeah, something always happened. So when I was experiencing that, I was like, it would be so easy for someone to sabotage this because things go wrong even when everyone is trying to make them go right. So if someone has like, malicious intent, that's so easy. And then I was just thinking, because it's, part of the fun of writing these style of books is you get to think of things that like are a tiny bit larger than life. Like, there are a lot of scenarios in the book that are a little extreme, but are really fun. Like this is a fiction world where yeah, this is kind of crazy that all these different things would happen to Olivia over 6 months, but maybe they do happen. So it was really fun to be able to think of those like just a little bit extra kind of evil sabotage things.
Yeah, that one. I mean, yeah, I just hate that I've had that reaction many
Oh
times in
no,
my
oh,
life. So
sorry.
yeah, so I was just like going, oh God, that's the worst. No, to me anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Do anyone else have another question? I have another one. So we are talking about that you love reading as a kid. Can you share like what your favorite books were as a kid?
Oh yeah. So I really liked the Harry Potter series as a kid, and as a teenager, honestly. So did my little sister, like to the point that my parents like confiscated the books from us and we only got them back at Christmas because we would just read them like over and I'm not exaggerating, I probably read each book like 30 times. Like we read it so like my sister and I are both huge readers. I took those away. I really like The Princess Bride is a classic, and I feel like I read it as a after seeing the movie as a kid, and you get the like surface level fantasy, and then as you read it as an adult, there's like the story in the beginning about he's like selling this fake manuscript, etc. And there's just so many layers, and it's just a very clever book, even beyond the core fantasy story. So I really liked The Princess Bride as well.
Those are pretty good choices. I like those. Let's see. Anyone else have any other questions? Let's see. Uh,
Hi.
well,
What?
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
You had a place to go, like vacation or to write, other than when you're OR, or where would you prefer to do your writing? Like, any place, like, where would you like to visit?
Any
Europe? Or,
Yeah, I like to write on vacation. It's the only time I feel like I have downtime to sit and like think deeply for many hours at a time. But I actually, the majority of, hopefully this book comes out and you guys can all read it and think about this, but the majority of the plastic surgery sabotage book I wrote in the OR in the like notes app on my iPhone, like sitting in during surgeries. When the patient was stable, everything was chill, it's not neglecting the patient care. But that's what I would do. I would sit there and I would write on my phone, and then when I got home, I would copy and paste it to my manuscript document. Because I realized when I again started taking writing seriously that just given where I am in my job and my career, if I only wrote in the ideal situation of me like in that deep space in my like happy place with a candle on, I would write like 3 times a year. So I was like, all right, I gotta find a way to do this like no, and figure out how to make it work. And so I kind of came up with that workaround, and it ended up working really well. So it's
but
very, yeah, I will say anesthesia is kind of like flying a plane that takeoff and landing are the most intense parts for us. And you can always hit a flock of birds, but if you're not hitting the flock of birds or anything, then you do have some chill downtime. So it is okay to write during the surgery.
how did you
What
celebrate
do
once you got your publishing? Like, did you do anything
Oh,
fun?
I was so excited. I actually was on night shift the 2 weeks that I remember the so close the weeks that Zibby offered. So I got an email from my agent over the weekend that they wanted to set up a call, which they always do to like talk to you in person before they send an offer. So I got home at like 7 a.m. super tired, was excited about the call. Got up at 10, did the call. I'm back to bed afterward. And then woke up at 3 p.m. like to an email that had the offer, and I was like so excited, and I was yeah, it was amazing. And I think my husband and I went out to like a really nice dinner that weekend. I was just so excited, and I was trying to tell my friends, but none of them are really in publishing. They didn't really understand. They were like, "Oh, so when can I buy your book?" In like 2 years, but it's still exciting. It's a big moment.
Oh,
So I have this
So,
vision of you sitting there working on your book, waiting to hear an alarm go off on your patient.
Yep. Yeah, that's you're picturing my writing process. You have it in your head. Uh, yeah. Yeah, there's once you've been doing anesthesia for a couple of years, your brain there's a couple of the beats that just go deep into your brain. So I don't even have to be looking at it. If something changes, I will hear it. And so
Ah,
sometimes I'm looking and you just hear it and then you know you got to do something.
so I was going to say, how long did it take when you wrote the book to from when it got published?
Ooh. Well, it was a year and almost a year and a half between selling the book and publishing the book. And then before that, probably a year of me writing it and then editing and revising it. So probably 2.5 years, start to finish. Again, I'm hoping to eventually shorten that and get into more of a rhythm and a routine. But yeah, it was definitely writing is a long game, and part of the process is there are times when your manuscript is essentially out of your hands, whether it's with my agent or with my editor. And so they always say to, be working on the next thing. So you always have these like cycle of manuscripts that you're working through.
your husband's rescues dogs? Was I heard? Did Michelle
Oh
mention that?
no,
Oh, no, no.
we have a rescue dog. Our dog is from a shelter. We adopted her. My husband is a resident plastic surgeon. I told you that
oh,
I don't like researching, so the most I was going to do was ask my husband questions about how do you operate on this part of the face or something. So,
Oh, cool. What type of dog do you have?
she's a mutt.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
have
we
a
did
shepherd.
that. Yeah, we did the doggy DNA kit, which was a total scam, I think. But it told us that she was like 1% of everything. So we love her, but she's a mutt.
Mm. Oh, that's cute.
Okay, let's see. Hmm. So in the first book, the main character is like a lawyer. Was there someone in your life that you're saying like you don't want to do research that was a lawyer or something?
Yeah, my grandfather and my aunt are both lawyers. And then I had a good friend. I have a good friend who isn't big law, and we had talked to her, my husband and I, several times about there are a lot of similarities between big law and residency in terms of after you finish school, if you're going into big law, you go into these like associate positions where you work crazy hours and you're expected to be on call for your partners, and the partners will do crazy things and make you like agree to them. I mean, the difference is they get paid like 4 times what we do, so that makes it easier for them, but it's fine. We're not salty about it. But yeah, I've always thought big law was a very interesting like field. And so I kind of used their experiences when writing this.
Okay, this was a lot of fun, and I want to thank you so much, Elle, for coming and doing this virtual author visit with the Westbury Memorial Public Library, and we all enjoyed talking and listening to you. Our next virtual author visit is with Noelle Salazar, author of The Lies We Leave Behind, and it's going to be on Monday, December 9th at 7 p.m. And you can register on the website. The registration process is a little different. That's a whole long story. I'll share that later. But I will say good night to Elle and all our attendees. And also, there were some sweet messages from Susie and Kathy, who also enjoyed the discussion as well. And I want to thank you all for attending. So take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you guys
both.
so much. This was so fun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good
Good
night.
night,
I'll check you
Goodbye.
on Instagram.
everyone.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.